with me, Ophelia? Ophelia, this is not the time to falter.
Even for someone with only the most passing of interest in the franchise, Warhammer 40k Battle Sister holds a lot of great moments. Feeling the sturdy thud of bolter fire in your hands as you stamp through trenches, cowering in the hulking presence of a space marine, or ripping through enemies with a chainsword all deliver on the dreams of immersing yourself in Games Workshop's deliciously miserable universe. These isolated instances make Battle Sister a decent recommendation for fans of the series, even if they're strung together by a fairly simplistic shooter. Battle Sister feels warmly nostalgic, not perhaps in the world it realises, Warhammer's tabletop time killing has never felt more relevant in 2020, but certainly in design. This 4-ish hour whirlwind tour feels like an early 2000s PS2 era tie-in in many ways, taxiing you from set piece to set piece via a network of corridors with no shortage of cannon fodder to brutally eviscerate. If anything, I suspect fans would find it has more in common with 2003's 40k Fire Warrior than it does with any of the newer games in the series. Personally, it had me fondly recalling memories of the first two Red Faction games. That is to say, it's a cheap thrill to blast your way through. Battle Sister is never anything less than entertaining, propped up by faithful set dressing. Its shootouts against a handful of enemy types would probably slip into mundanity if it wasn't for the authentically chunky arsenal that takes a little artistic license in VR. The stubby, sturdy roar of the bolter delivers a pleasing kick with Quest 2's haptics, and feels powerful to wield two-handed, though if you're so inclined it's perfectly possible to dual-wield too. That might be sacrilege for Warhammer purists, but it's undeniably vicious in practice. The Flamer, meanwhile, boasts surprising reach, and there's even an amusing inside joke when you happen upon a lasgun at a particularly desperate moment. But the zippy, slender rifle itself still proves to be a satisfying weapon in the right hands. Juggling between these tools keeps Battle Sister's combat suitably morbid, especially when paired with the surprising amount of blood you'll spill for a VR game. Well-placed headshots don't just result in instant kills, they'll completely remove your enemy's head from its shoulders, while you need to just hold the chainsword out with the trigger press down to effortlessly rip through limbs and torsos. It's not, however, especially deep, especially for a VR game. Developer Pixel Toys has streamlined Battle Sister's reloading to simply swiping down on your belt, for example, and melee combat with a power sword falls into the trap of VR waggle. It gives the game more of a feather touch arcade weight than you might perhaps hope for something amongst the metallic crunch of Warhammer's otherwise hefty warfare. I'd love to see the series tackled from that angle, getting you to compensate for the ridiculous weight of its weaponry, but Battle Sister understandably aims for more accessible ground. Other elements aren't quite as forgivable. Playing as a member of the Sisterhood, you'll have access to a handful of special powers that are used too sparingly and are far too sensitive to control. A sort of force push move, for example, is activated by thrusting your hand forward, but it took me hours to understand the precise way in which the game wanted me to do it and where to use it. In early sections, I stood in corridors blocked off by waist-height boxes, flailing my arms about in a hopeless attempt to inch them forward. Abilities to slow time and provide temporary invincibility are easier to activate, though their implementation still feels last minute. There's just one instance each in which you'll need to use them. Ultimately, Battle Sister is a game first and a VR experience second. There are boss fights against giant mechs that are helpfully surrounded by otherwise useless gun emplacements, and a steady progression of enemies that, rather than introduce new mechanics unique to the platform, simply shoot bigger, tougher bullets. It's not without its VR charms though. Standing shoulder to, well, waist height with a Black Templar Space Marine is rightly intimidating, especially as he spits unending jargon about cleansing the cultists in holy fire.
There's still some fangs in this old dog, shall we?
And there's a brilliant moment of panic when you overheat a laser pistol and realise you have to throw it as far away as possible before you blow yourself up. This is just scratching the surface of what the Warhammer franchise could do with VR, but it's undeniably fun all the same. And it's a pretty impressive showcase for Quest 2 too. That is, when it isn't catching up to you. Battle Sister boasts impressive environmental variety for a Quest 2 game, and often looks very sharp on the platform, even in bigger areas. Special mention has to go to the weapon design, which is not only authentic, but intricately detailed and sure to please even the most demanding of the fanbase. That said, I did encounter a few hard crashes over the course of the campaign, and some of the levels are constantly loading in textures, whilst enemy models will inexplicably start to stutter after they're killed. It can definitely feel a little wonky at times, and you get the sense that Pixel Toys could have benefited from a month or so more of development, especially with the 2-player Horde mode not set to arrive until early next year. Battle Sister offers mostly clean, mostly forgettable fun then. It'd likely feel just as at home played on a screen with a controller in hand as it would in VR, but the chance to peer down the sights of a bolter or exercise righteous justice with a power sword will please many a 40k fan. As far as ticking the boxes go for VR shooters, it does enough to warrant a look if your back catalogue is empty.
Better than nothing.
Thanks so much for watching this review. If you liked it, make sure to like, subscribe and comment, hit the notifications button, and we'll see you soon for yet more VR coverage.